It's after 7 o'clock in Trinidad and Tobago as we continue into the second hour of morning edition on this Tuesday. Yes, that's Tuesday, not a Monday, because of the holiday yesterday, a short week that we're trying to pack in as many different elements this morning, including the next edition of the Tedx Talks. Tedx Port of Spain will be here, will be held on October the 7th at Queen's Hall. This year's theme is In the Arena. This will be the 7th edition of the TED Talks in Port of Spain, and Tedx Port of Spain has attracted some of the most innovative, creative and forward-thinking doers and change makers in the country. Sounds very impressive. It might be even so impressive that even a dinosaur like myself, who has never attended or never even watched or listened to a single TED Talk over these many years, might actually be motivated to be part of the experience, because in 2017 there are going to be 9 powerful speakers who will share their stories of survival, journeys of excitement, and even their scars of defeat as they have battled in the arena, pursuing the dream of making the space in Trinidad and Tobago a better place. Well, with all that fancy introduction, let's hope that the more information on the event lives up to it. We have 2 volunteers for TEDx Port of Spain here with us, Denise Deming and also Arvinda Rampersad. Arvinda, who is volunteered in the United Kingdom as well, and he's also contributed as a TEDx speaker. His area of expertise involving Bitcoin, and again, that's one of those things that for people like myself, I'm wondering what the hell is all of that. But we don't have time to go through, but maybe this is an ideal TEDx warm-up, because we have just about 10 minutes to sum up all that is happening. First and foremost, it's $500 to attend. You can go to tedxportofspain.com to register. They'll probably be closing off registration 2 days before the event. Remember, we're talking about October the 7th. Or you can go to buzz.tt, that's buzz.tt. That's the direct link for registration and all the other information. Good morning to both of you. Good to have you on the program. So, Denise Deming, what will make 2017 in the arena different from previous editions?
Morning, Fazil. It's wonderful to be here. TEDx is about ideas worth spreading, and what will make it different is that at the moment our country is going through a period of darkness. It's gloom, it's doom. People are just saying all kinds of negative things. We're doing all kinds of negative things. TEDx Port of Spain is an opportunity for us to surround ourselves with maybe about 500 people who are interested in thinking about a different Trinidad and Tobago. The whole concept of in the arena goes beyond the speakers, because we are all in the arena on a daily basis. We have our struggles, we have our fights, we have our survival. And from where I sit, ideas worth spreading is where we begin to change the things in our society. If you can't change the concept, then you won't change anything else in the reality. And this is why we do TEDx. You know, and I really hope that we can get a dinosaur like you into the arena with us.
I wish you all the best in that regard. But Arvind, I mean, as someone who's been involved in it at different levels and participated in it as well, why do you see value in TEDx Talks?
Well, so I've probably been associated with it for about 7 or 8 years now. And when I was first introduced to it, it wasn't from a Trinidad perspective at all. It's if people are familiar with it, TED Talks are a big thing online. A lot of people find inspiration, find valuable content, personally inspired to do things from those talks. So I mean, seeing it blossom in Trinidad as well, where we don't have to buy into necessarily a foreign narrative, where we can create our own content, find inspirational stories from our own people, and hear talks that are relevant to our immediate surroundings. It's something that I think has value. It shows us ourselves from ourselves. So I think that's something that's massively valuable. It's something I've been happy to be a part of over the last few years.
But Denise Deming, because this is very much an old talk society like many other societies, so what makes a TEDx Port of Spain event different from going to Woodford Square and listening to the old talkers for free?
Two things. The old talkers in Woodford Square have no control over what they say. They just talk. They talk, and they talk from an excellent point of view. I've seen Woodford Square as a child, and it's a lovely platform. The difference with the TEDx is that you have a structured presentation. You're coached. All our speakers are coached, and that people are surprised at. Because, for instance, you may have a speaker who is a lecturer, and they're accustomed in the lecturing mood, and they have to move away from lecturing to talk, because it is that talk that's an engagement between you and the audience. We say to some of our speakers, you know, consider that you're at a dinner party and you have someone next to you, and that's the talk you're giving. We also suggest to them that this is the opportunity for you to say to the world what your thoughts are. And Trinidad has had excellent success via Tedx. I'm very, very proud that we have 60 talks online by Trinidadians about Trinidad in a very high quality presentation. Now that has been done simply because we've been doing this TEDx every year. And it has been done because of support by several people who have funded us. It's also been done on very low budgets but high quality. Although it's talk and it's a lot of ideas, it's a kind of structured talk.
And Arvinda, in that sense, I mean, from your own experience, does it actually translate into real action? Taking that from because talk for talk's sake is kind of pointless. Yeah. But from your own experience, have you gotten the feedback or yourself been impacted to the extent that it's made a difference in the way that you look at your life?
So personally, it has. The conversations that you'd see from the event. So I'll just take the example of last year when I was a speaker and I gave my presentation. After that, people would come up to you, they wouldn't have considered the possibility of, well, the technology I spoke about was Bitcoin. They wouldn't have considered, like, they heard it in the news, they heard of it, like, you know, in passing, or they didn't really consider it. After they talk, their eyes open to, oh, there's a lot more going on than just what the hype says. And they're looking now at actively, how can I adopt this? How can I use this in Trinidad? I mean, just 3 or 4 weeks ago, I did a session with TT Chamber, where one of the guys who was at the event last year, he was kind of instrumental in getting that going. And they're looking at, okay, here's this technology that is coming down the pipelines. How can we roll this? How can we introduce this to our members? How can we bring down costs or solve certain problems we see in our businesses? How can we get this going? And it's a conversation that I'm happy to see happening in Trinidad and Tobago now, because it's just happening in other countries. So it's good to be on the progressive end of things.
Yeah. And who are going to be some of these speakers on October the 7th?
Just before I talk about some of the speakers, I just wanted to make a point that's related to what Arvinda said. New Zealand is exactly halfway around the world from Trinidad and Tobago. We've had a report from someone who looked at a talk by Afra Raymond and was making the comment that the exact things he was talking about are happening in New Zealand. Now, that is powerful, and it comes from Trinidad all the way around the world. Now, to me, that is, if you want to make impact, that is a way of making impact. But I'll give you a couple of our speakers. So, for example, we have Cleopatra Borrell. And one of the things she's talking about is, how does someone come from Mearu, where there are no facilities, there are no coaches. How does someone emerge from a place like as far as Mearu to become 4-time representative on the Olympic arena? How does that happen? And Trinidad is blessed with that kind of talent. But what we are not doing is harnessing that kind of talent in a very structured way to ensure that they continue to emerge on the world stage. And if that talk is able to stimulate a change in our approach, then we would have done far more than we expected, because that is a significant achievement, and that achievement is replicated in sport all the time. You ask the question, how do we do so well despite our lack of structure? And we have to have structure. Another talk that I am anticipating is a talk by Rehanna Juman. Rehanna is talking about, Rehanna's passion is mangroves. And at first, when I saw the content for that talk, I was saying mangroves, you know, what's about mangroves? But then what I have learned is that 70% of our population live on the coastline, and mangroves are extremely important for our economy, for our survival, for our daily living. And she is dedicated, she's almost dedicated her life to studying mangroves. Now, if we didn't have a space like that, she would continue to be an academic that would write papers. This format is going to give that story accessibility to a number of people, and we keep replicating that in our talks. And
because, Arvinda, you can only speak for a maximum of 18 minutes, and while we are watching one with Wendell Mann-Warren involved in a talk, I can imagine what he might be talking about. But does that for example, for your presentation, does it make it more difficult to really encapsulate all that you want to say in a way that will get the message across in the time that is available to you?
So it definitely was a process. Cutting something that you want to talk on and on about down to 18 minutes. I think mine was even shorter, probably 15 minutes. But what it did, and what I found was massively useful, is that it forces you to get to the point. It forces you to cut the fat, cut what's not necessary, and to get to that crux that when you communicate this thing in this way, it's accessible to people, it engages people, they're not bored, they don't turn off and drift away. Everything has to be on point, going from point to point, so that you don't ever lose the audience. I think that is actually massively useful, having it that tight.
And because, as you described it, Denise Deming, that we are in a very dark time economically, we have the crime situation, there is a level of disaffection in many different ways. For many, it harkens back to the late 1980s in many ways. What do you see this particular event, titled In the Arena, providing to those who might be feeling that level of desperation?
I think it's a moment of hope. It's also a moment of just connecting with 500 people who see the glass as half full, not half empty. It's also an opportunity for two of our partners, BP and Scotia, to be part of a different approach, a different conversation about Trinidad and Tobago. I honestly believe that if we change our conversation, we will change our country, which is why I continue to volunteer as a Tedx, to do Tedx.
Well, let me be one of the cynics and say that all the 500 of you sitting down there and being all hopeful and optimistic, and the politicians still thieving the money.
You know, there are things you can control and there are things you cannot control. If I could have a 500 Kumbaya group, they're likely to infect another set of people. So I'm doing my part. If the politicians want to continue to thief, fire for them.
Well, that's... Well, maybe we should get one of them who thief any money to come and give them mea culpa. I was thieving the money for so many years and give it in 18 minutes. But we just want to remind you that it's going to be on October the 7th at Queen's Hall. Starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. $500. We've given you the contact information. We'll give it to you again. TEDxportofSpain.com. You can go to BuzzTT for the registration as well. And they'll probably be closing off registration by October the 5th. And indeed, maybe they should have TEDx format in a lot of those public events that they have. You know, when they do the protocol, we like to recognize so, and take about 15 minutes before they actually start talking. Maybe they could use that and talk about cutting out the fat. That is fat. All of these people who get vexed when you don't mention the name at the start of an event. But anyway, we'll see how things go on October the 7th. And indeed, we hope all goes well with the event and people are really inspired by the exercise. And who knows, maybe a dinosaur or two might come lumbering in to see what all of this fad is all about. 7:19, we'll be back right after this.